Hello everybody. I'm Kuba, and this is an amazing event that I was really looking forward to, which is basically our chance and your chance to meet amazing people who are behind the looks of our games. And it's an absolute pleasure to see all of you because all of you have made it possible for our games to look, well, absolutely beautiful. So, hi everybody, great to have you here.
Hi.
Hi guys.
Hi.
This
So,
is so amazing. I have to just, Kuba, sorry. I just like, it's the first time I can see everyone actually who, work face to face, sort of.
yes. So, what we're gonna talk about? There are a few things. There are a few questions I will want to ask you, and I'm really curious how you're gonna approach the answers. But before we do that, I would like to have the honor to present you guys. So, first and chronologically first would be Agnieszka Kopera, the lady in green, who is basically the foundation of our company, who started NSKN Games that now is merged with Board&Dice 10 years ago, 11 years ago,
11.
11 years ago. And she has been the foundation and the person who was making the games look how they looked. And she was the one who was putting all the files together. And she still does that from time to time. And she has worked on so many games. If you go to her BGG page, because obviously everybody has a BGG page here, you'll find that there are almost 40 games that Agnieszka has worked on.
Jesus.
And do you remember what was the first one? Because I know what was the first one.
The first one will be basically the Wild Fun West or something as such.
Yes, it has been Wild Fun West, which was the first game published by NSKN Games ever. And so, how was it to jump into the industry?
No, it's not true. The very first one was Warriors and Traders, but I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, but what I mean is like your first game to work on was Wild Fun West. So how was it? Because you came from a very different industry, didn't you?
Yeah, guys, I feel honored that you wanted me here because, to be honest, it's I have no the background as all of you have, right? It was kind of necessity, because Andrei, who is the company actually founder, he basically, I was like, okay, let's do it, let's make board games, and this is how it started. So like, honestly, it's a crazy story, but generally it was necessity which made me do what I was actually doing. And gladly, basically, it's lucky for me that I was really good with softwares and that I have some imagination and I'm creative, and in combining all this, actually it helped me to be able to do what you could see printed in a good way. But it was a journey. So I did not have, I'm self-taught, all the softwares, and every time when I'm doing something, I'm always like, oh my god, I'm curious if somebody who actually finished university in that, have degree, what they will say about this, right? But it's less and less. I think after 70 years, I stopped questioning that. Yeah.
Right. Now, Agnieszka does a lot of graphic design and basically puts a lot of our games into layouts. But we also have Magda here. And Magda Klepacz is a person who was behind the biggest success of Board&Dice before merging with NSKN, which was Escape Tales: The Awakening, followed by Escape Tales: Low Memory. It was all you're doing, right?
Yeah, it was almost all my doing because the covers, I guess it was Jakub that is also here with us, and it's the first time I see his face. Hi. So he did the covers, and I designed everything what was inside, like the parts with illustrations, all the cards, the board, with Board&Dice and Lock Me team, of course, obviously. So that's how I started to work with Board&Dice. Then we started to work with Kuba when, before the merge, and And since then, we work from time to time. And I'm illustrator, graphic designers for board games, and not only. So now I'm based in Paris, but I'm originally from Poland. So
Exactly, that's what what I wanted to say. That you did remote work with us before it was
Exactly.
so popular, right?
And what was very funny is that I started to work with Polish teams on board games when I moved to France, because it's been like 7 years that I'm in France, and I worked with so many French companies, and I never worked with Polish people, and it was really hard for me to accept that I don't have this link with my country. And then I started to work with LockMe on this game, because LockMe team contacted me to design the illustrations for this game, and with Board&Dice, obviously. And since then, yeah, it's just flourishing, the collaboration, and I hope I'm keeping my fingers crossed for future games together.
Yeah. And you, when it comes to board games, we are the only publisher you're working with, right?
Yeah, actually, yes, because it's been like 4 years only that I do board games, and in parallel, I do like different illustrations, different types here in France. So
Magda
it's
also
even more
did.
card games than board games, because there's a lot of cards in the games I'm creating recently, like all this, The Awakening or Low Memory, which was the sequel of. There are more
Magda
cards.
also did a lot of work on engine cards for Snowdonia Deluxe Master Set. It was a crazy job done over like super short period of time. There were so many cards. So yeah, thank you for that. It was super fast and efficient. Okay, but let's move on. We also have here Odysseas. Hi.
Greetings, everybody.
Odysseas has worked with us for a long time now, because your first work for Board&Dice, or old NSKN really, was, if I remember correctly, Versailles, right?
I think, yes, it was the board.
Yeah,
Versailles.
it was the board.
Yeah.
It was the board for Versailles. And then you did also Simorg, expansions for Exodus, In the Name of Odin, and finally, the one of our biggest prize, which is Teotihuacan, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you've illustrated
that's
the whole
right.
board for Teotihuacan base game, and you did the cover, one of the best covers in board games. And so how was it possible that, I mean, how did it happen that you started working with Andrei and Agnieszka back in the time when you started working on Versailles?
Well, I think this is an interesting story, because I have the feeling, I mean, when I met Andrei and Agnieszka, it was, I don't remember the year, 2013 or 14.
Yeah.
One of the
Might
13
be.
maybe.
I mean, Versailles was
At
2014.
Essen.
Mhm.
So it was 13, yeah. So I visited Essen for the first time. I had like a couple of games under my belt, like Among the Stars and some other like minor things, and I was going around with my portfolio showing to people. So I met them, and I think they were like also entering at that period into the scene. It was the first game or the second game you made, I think.
Yeah, the
So,
thing is that
yeah.
you also work on the Edge of Extinction, the Exodus, the expansion.
Yeah.
And this is when it started somehow, yeah.
I think so, yeah. So it was the interesting thing is maybe that it's kind of a parallel story, like growing, and I loved it. It was a beautiful process.
Very happy to hear it, because of the crazy deadlines we always put on you.
yeah, it was. Well,
so just like Magda, you don't live where you were born, right? You live.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
so tell us about it.
I was born in Greece, in Athens, and since about 10 years, I'm living in Vienna, in Austria.
Fantastic. So Odysseas is one of those artists that are driven and dedicated to their work. We had a game, Dust in the Wings, which was basically about butterflies. And I don't know if you can see behind Odysseas' back, there are some sketches posted on walls and stuff. The moment we started working on this butterfly game, 2 weeks later, he shows me pages of different butterflies, like, oh, this is that species, but I'm not sure if they could work with those species. And I'm like, what's going on with this guy? And he just had all those butterflies thrown all over his studio. And I was like, Okay, that's crazy, but I really like it. So yeah, we'll come back to the process of creation in a moment. But now we'll move to Jakub Fajtanowski. Hi, Jakub.
Hi.
So Jakub has been working with us for a long time now. We are not the only publisher Jakub's been working with, because you have worked with Portal as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Portal.
But Jakub was inherited by us from the merger from the Board&Dice side. You did work on Escape Tales: The Awakening on the cover, as Magda said, but you also did Sierra West and Word Shapers, and you did a lot of illustrations for us later, like a lot of illustrations for Yedo. You did illustrations, cover illustration for Traintopia, quite a lot of stuff. And then came Escape Tales: Children of Wormwood, which was supposed to be a tough project with quite a few illustrations that grew into this enormous amount of illustrations, right? We've been doing it for like 4 months, constant work and corrections and work. That was tough.
Yeah, that was tough. Well, that was, I think, now it's 4 years, I think, with our cooperation. Definitely before merging. My first art director was Phil Głowacz. So yeah, that was a fun time. And I remember that I think that was Bright Chronicles, Agent Decker. I think that was the first game I was working on, cover, and some element of board, I think. And yeah, mainly covers, I think, from the the first part of long-term cooperation, and then Yedo and Escape Tales.
Yeah, all those amazing characters for Yedo. That was, and on a daily basis, you work. You teach people, right?
No, not anymore. I am from my original job was because I am designer. I PhD in design, and sometimes ago I work as a teacher in university. I teach industrial design. Hope I can say that. So construction of many things, and well, I've did many things, from drawing, painting, and design, basically. But I think 5 years ago I've started my own company firm with and start to full-time be an illustrator and concept artist. Well, basically my first job as a full illustrator on my own was Monolith Arena. So there was a strange. Basically, I started my company, and next week, my first job was Monolith Arena, and I think there was 4 characters in tokens. So
fantastic. So I can see a lot of Aliens behind you, and I appreciate that, because Aliens is the best franchise ever there. So this is something that I really appreciate.
Collection.
Yep.
Videotapes.
Absolutely good. I have videotapes, I have DVDs, I have even this big alien head with DVDs inside. I appreciate that. Okay, so the next person here.
8mm tape.
No. Unfortunately, I don't have that. But if you do, tell me where you live, and we'll talk about it. So the next person is Aleksander Zawada.
Hi.
And Aleksander is, I think, one of our newest connections, because most of the games that you worked on have premiered in 2020 or will premiere in 2021 and beyond. We have worked a lot, especially on stuff like main board illustrations. So you did, for example,
that's where we started. Yes, the board for Dark Ages was the first thing we did together, I think.
Yep, it was Dark Ages, and then we moved on to Tekenu and Tawantinsuyu and Zapotec, and yeah, it's just growing on us. And then came Origins, which was again
that
amazing.
was fantastic. Yeah.
It was an amazing project. There are plenty of tiles in Origins, and there are almost 50 unique illustrations on those tiles, all of them done by Aleksander. They're all basically your, let's say, urban views, and that was a lot of work. And you're here not by chance. You're here because you've been recommended here by Zbigniew, who is also a part of our team, and we'll move to Zbigniew in a moment. But you two guys, you have known each other for a long time, right?
Yeah, years and years.
Yeah, and but because on a regular basis, you also work as an artist, but not in the board games industry, right?
Yeah. Well, I started to work as an artist just after I made the decision that I won't be an architect, so I studied architecture, and then one day it occurred to me that no, that's not the thing. From then I mainly did advertising illustrations, storyboards, and such like. Little fast forward a few years later, you came along. I think it's a funny story, actually, that I think we might share here. That me and Zbyszek actually we were trying to get the same job on Board&Dice.
Yep. Yeah, it was true, and we found out that Aleksander is more into illustrations, and Zbyszek was more into graphic design, which was the position we were looking for. And I think we can.
Sorry, Kuba. Even funnier is that we didn't know about this. That
and you are close friends, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you ended up working with us anyway, just on a bit different basis. Okay, so we've been talking about Zbigniew for a long time now, so let's give him some space. Zbigniew, this is the person that I work the most at the office on a daily basis. He's our head graphic designer, and he's now moving to the position of our art director, so we have a little transition period here, but he is well, I can say one of the most hardworking people I know, and I can tell by the fact when he was working on Yedo, and there was writing on some of the boards in the game that need to be properly calligraphed. So Zbyszek decided that he will learn calligraphy, and he just put those little brushes, and it was just crazy. So Zbigniew, happy to have you. So tell us, because you also, before you came to our company, you have already worked on 2 games, but that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Maybe not
2014, 2015?
Not so long ago. I think it was 2014 and 15. And actually, also, Aleksander worked on those games too. Yes.
And then I'm adding everyone here again. So,
all
right, Kuba, you're back.
I think we're missing Magda only. So let me ask.
So the cells, what are you drawing now? You have so many stuff behind you.
There might be secret knowledge.
Who knows? Well, right now It's a lot of stuff, guys. It's so hard to say. It's a lot of stuff. Heads and tails. Heads and tails, labyrinths, horses, and Dutch buildings from the Golden Age.
Oh, nice. Guys, let me check if we are actually online, and I will check it by basically going to our Facebook page, which is streaming us live all the time. And if I see myself talking, it means that we're good. So
there is no indefinite time of streaming. You know, it's not like peanut butter jelly time. Like, you know, you can go on YouTube and watch it over and over.
Yes, we are live, which means that we can come back. And what I would like to come back to is Magda telling us about her experience with designing, with creating illustrations for Escape Tales: The Awakening, where it was somewhere else who was the graphic designer. And at first you didn't have the full layouts of cards, only the idea, right?
Yeah, but actually it was very, what I had, it was enough for me to create illustrations where everything will be visible, because that's actually important, because adjusting your illustration and the whole artwork afterwards, it's quite complicated. As sometimes there is a lot of elements that you have to put from one place to another, because there are some icons that we didn't foresee, and that's complicated. So what I mean is that in general, you should have at least layouts or something to go with from the very beginning, and that there should be some communication between the graphic designer and the illustration, even if there is some middleman, for example, so that the illustrator can know which parts of the illustration can be covered after all, and that's easier to work with. Like, for example, now I'm working on another project that cannot probably be disclosed yet, but I could do the graphic design and the illustration, and frankly it was a little bit easier for me because I had the global idea from the very beginning till the very end. So yeah, but basically both are equally important, and I think that it's a little bit easier maybe to adjust graphic design to the artworks than the other way around, although I guess that both should follow the same mood board, and that teams should communicate all the way.
Okay, so that brings us a bit closer to the second topic I wanted to talk about, which is what should be done first, arts or graphic design. What do you think, Jakub? How it should work? First arts or first graphic design? I think you're muted. Your mic might be muted, or we cannot hear you, maybe. No, unfortunately. No. Okay, so maybe let's try to move with the same question to Odysseas, and let's try, Jakub, to figure out the technical things. Maybe we'll have to rejoin our stream. So, Odysseas, what should go first, art or graphic design?
That's a interesting question. I would say it depends. I think it's seldom a linear process, except if, you know, there is just a specific type of games that the company produces or that the artist makes, and there is like some kind of a fixed method that, you know, a recipe that always works. So we do this, we do that, and here it is. But in my experience, it really depends on the team, on the artist, on the kind of game, because it is what board game design and making really is. It is really a collaboration. It's not some kind of, you know, thing that you attach art and then, you know, illustration and then you know put them together. It's not like that. This is just, you know, the technical process. But, you know, you get the idea of the design, you get like the bare bones, and you need to translate this stuff into visual, like icons or backgrounds or whatever. And unless there is a good communication and understanding of the project, what we are doing, like the thematic and all the rest, you cannot really, or I cannot really find the correct place to say, okay, from here on it's graphic design, from there on is illustration. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying, but the borders are very fluid. Graphic design and the thematic and the mechanics are also, it's one thing, So I guess both. I agree 100% with Magdalena that good art direction is needed and the mock-up to see the whole thing, what we are going for, and hope for the best along the way. Yeah.
Okay, Jakub, are you back with us now when it comes to voice?
I think yes.
Yes, you are. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer to do arts first or graphic design, or maybe you just want to do arts and you do not want to graphic design? What's your preferred way to work?
Oh, well, my preference is basically art. I'm not such a phenomenal graphic designer. So yeah, when I get the opportunity, I prefer to strip myself to illustration. But of course, if it's needed, yeah. But many
So
times
if you work, do you prefer to have the graphic design ready and then just fit in with your art, or would you rather have the art done and let the graphic designer worry about how to fit it in a card, in a cover, in a board?
Yeah, well, many times when I get any commissions, there's, for example, no way they got done graphic design yet. So there's in majority of time I've just got my illustration for some times, but when there is some graphic design done in this time, yeah, it's very it's simple that way, because even colors or values on illustration, there's some clues you can use to when you create something, yeah. And style of I would say background or graphic design of UI, yeah. For example, when we do something with in special period of time, yeah, like I don't know, engine drawing, yeah. So there is for sure some borders when you starting to do something like that, and you know, for example, how much you can be crazy with something like this. But this is basically mundane job of illustrator, and you know what to do in certain situations. Yeah, background is graphic design is something we teach to knowledge. Yeah, and we know how to work with something like that. So I think that there is no need to constantly, contact with a graphic designer, and each party can for some time work alone, and then would say confront our visions.
Yeah.
Something
So
like
I
that.
guess that, for example, speaking of Alexander, you work in a duet quite a lot, meaning that speaking of prepares the graphic design, the layout of something. For example, sometimes when you work on games like, I think it was first with Takano, where speaking of basically prepared where things will be on the board, and roughly how much space they will take. And then Aleksander started working on illustrations while simultaneously Zbigniew worked on iconography and graphic design for the board. Is that correct? Do I remember correctly, Zbigniew?
Yes, that's how it happened. Yes.
So basically, this time it was graphic design and illustration going basically head to head. And you guys, did you consult each other during work? Like, oh, hey, I'm using a lot of beige and blue here, so keep that in mind while designing iconography or stuff like that.
You know what? That's like I think that synergy might be the word that we are looking for. Actually, because I think that me and Zbyszek, we actually understand each other very well, and when we work on the, for example, a board for the game, it might happen that we can both influence each other with the direction of where the things are going. I think that lately an example of that approach was one of the T games actually that
was it Kawantinsiu or Tekenu? Kawantinsiu. So Tekenu was.
Tabanussi was, because that's where I got a fabulous design from Zbyszek, and but I started from the cover illustration, and the cover illustration set the values and the colors for the board. And where the synergy started is where me and Zbyszek, we started talking about how the elements of the game on the board should look like to match the cover illustration, and it all started working together, and then message after message, email after email, illustration after illustration, it took the final shape, and I think that it was very important for us to communicate. It doesn't mean that we have to communicate constantly. Sometimes it's enough to give just a hint of where you think things should go, and hope that the person on the other side of the internet will understand.
Yeah, in this case, me and Oleg, we know each other for years, and I remember Oleg's work from like 20 years ago. So I I know his whole journey throughout the illustration. So basically, when I design something that I will know Oleg will also take part of, at this point I kind of know what to expect. So we have a great advantage in the experience.
Cool, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I have another question in my head for you right now. But before we go there is a question from our chat. And Johan would love to know, what would be a theme that would be something that you would love to do if you were absolutely free to choose? Like, for me, that would probably be the late Roman Empire. But what would that be for you guys, ladies and gentlemen? And we'll start with Magda. If there was one single theme.
So I guess that for me, one theme would be like something like Alice in Wonderland, or something with witches and like Harry Potter, but not necessarily for children, rather the adult version, a little bit darker and
like Sabrina, for example.
Oh, yeah, why not? I don't know, something a little bit witchy, but not so childish, and all this imaginary world around it, like potions, alchemy, and stuff like that. that would be
Fantastic.
my go-to.
Maybe we should redraw Trismegistus then with Magda. That's going to be an idea. Agnieszka, what would be a theme for you that you were absolutely free to choose and you just go for it?
Oh, this is so difficult. Because the first thing in my mind is like, of course some sci-fi, but then I'm like, oh, there's so much sci-fi already in there, like in the world. It's like,
Could it be Star Trek or I don't know?
Oh, Star Trek. This is a good idea.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
But the newest version with Michael Burnham or the older ones?
No. We are talking here Enterprise, Deep Space Nine. This is the style. No,
cool.
We talk about the real Star Trek,
Okay. So we have witches, we have Star Trek. Jakub, what would you do?
Jesus Christ, Alien, of course.
Alien. Come on, man. Yeah, absolutely.
For this opportunity. Yeah, Alien.
You know that there were many people in the Alien franchise who wanted to kill for the opportunity, and remember what happened to them in the end, right?
Yeah, if they, I don't know, filming a movie here, I would work for free to just be a body glued to the.
Are we recording that? Are we recording just in case? I mean.
Hey. Yeah, but the second thing is something I've started some time ago, but work, and it's Indestructible of Snakes of Lamb short novel.
Oh.
I love to do something with this particular story. Why? It's very alien, so you can glue it together. But yeah, I very like maybe this even would be something more interesting because it's not such a strict IP. Yeah, there was many alien games and whatsoever, but this is something similar in sort of way, but it can give you a fine balance between retro sci-fi and something new.
Cool.
And I think this is something very interesting for me, for example.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
Yeah, if someone want me from some alien job,
Good. We'll remember about that. Odysseas, so what would it be for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, partly the one reason I like working for board games, although I'm not doing it so much right now. This is because I find people who do this job for me. They find some cool themes like Teotihuacan or whatever, and I don't have to look at it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Right now, I'm already working on my favorite project, and it is a lot of stuff together. It's mythology wrapped around a real story, and there is illustrations, music, songs. It's a lot of stuff inside. So
okay,
I don't wish for anything else.
Okay, that's absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of, what would it be for you?
I would choose one of two.
Oh, okay.
The first
They're cheating. They're all cheating.
The first one would be some very crazy vector art.
Okay.
It's not common for Board&Dice games. Most illustrations for our games are kind of painting style, which fits more to the historical themed games. So this or something fantasy, because we also don't touch this theme very often. So fantasy.
Like but in fantasy, would it be
knights and dragons and wizards?
Okay, all right. So like Dragonlance from D&D, that would be good.
Yeah.
All right, Aleksander, you're the last, so tell us.
Okay, you know what? I'd love to do something Native American vibe, Wild West thing.
Okay.
I think that would be cool. I absolutely loved what happened lately to Zombicide, you know, with the Wild West vibe, and I think that would be absolutely cool in the board game to do something set up with the cowboys, horses.
Okay, I mean we have Sierra West, so we probably need to think on developing it further. Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
Okay, guys. So I want to know more about your art preference. So I would like you to point out like three is enough. Three games with the best illustrations and or with the best graphic design you have ever seen. So who wants to start? And I think let's go reverse this time. So let's start with Zbigniew, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay, so basically my favorite style of art in games is very clean style. So one of my favorite games visually is Tokaido, a beautiful Japanese themed game with a very clean white board and just some colorful elements that create the track you go along during the game. I'm really in love with the art of this game. Similar vibe I got from a game that was not so long ago on Kickstarter called Veiled Fate. It's a fantasy themed game, but with a very kind of minimalistic approach to the art. Basically, just a few nice illustrations of characters, fantasy characters, and a round board with some different lands like forest, desert, mountains. Very beautiful game. And the third one would be, I don't know. I have this sentiment for Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering was one of the first games I played since I was a kid. And the graphic design of this game and illustrations, so many illustrations during the years. It was very inspiring. It tells a great story over the years. And basically it was one of the first collectible card games. So it kind of defined the way the layout of the card appears in a lot of later games.
And it's also kind of a
very
benchmark.
Influential.
It's kind of a benchmark right now. I mean, if you have an artist that has done an illustration for Magic the Gathering, it's like, okay, we know that this is a pro. So yeah, totally, I feel you. So Magda, are there like games that you could point that you think are beautifully designed or illustrated?
So first of all, to point out 3 is very, very difficult. So I was hoping to be the last one so that I can make my head.
You can choose. Okay, I understand. I mean, feel free. Yeah.
So, okay, I like various things, and maybe I'll try to do something a little bit outside the box, because what I love are actually card games and all these traditional illustrations that go with card games. So I mean, I'm not changing the subject so much, but still, it's still a game. And what I think about what impressed me a lot was the series of, I guess the company is called Bicycle card games, playing cards, and they had some this limited edition, or maybe not limited, but designed by artists. So all this hearts, diamonds, spades, and all these shapes of cards were graphically
wow.
great. It was great design, and for me it was the perfect combination of graphic design and illustration, because all the illustrations that were in the middle, like queens and all everything what was inside, was very beautiful, but also the whole iconography was very, very beautiful. So that's a little bit maybe unusual choice, but coming to board games, well, I love something that comes to my mind right now is Sagrada and Azul, for example. These are games that I really like because I love architecture and it makes me want to travel, especially now during pandemics. I played a lot in these two games, and I imagine that I travel because, I like also the games that are really beautiful, entirely beautiful. So starting from graphic design through illustrations, but also to these little pieces that we can find in the game. And obviously in Sagrada and Azul, we have a lot of tiles or crystals or stuff like that are really beautiful. Then I'll be probably a little bit biased. I really like the third part, for example, of Escape Tales that Jakub designed. So this is, just probably third or fourth pick, so I'll stop there. But there is also Dixit cards, because I was talking about cards first that were designed by Marie Carrois, I guess. I don't remember. I guess she designed it, and it also it is a little bit oniric vision, I would say, a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, a little bit scary but beautiful, maybe a little bit more for children sort of illustration, but I liked it a lot. So yeah, I started very quickly to at least put more choices.
I guess that with Dixit it depends on how you look at those illustrations, but from what you're saying, I can hear that you love when graphic design and illustrations are pretty much the same thing, that when they just cross
and they merge together.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I fully agree with Azul and Sagrada. Beautiful ideas, and basically forged into board games. So Agnieszka, what would it be for you?
We were supposed to go opposite. Damn. Yeah, I was looking for help on my shelf, but all the games which actually I keep are in the other room. But to be honest, the first time when you asked this question, the first titles which came to my mind, which I personally love the way they look and how they feel, is Simurg and In the Name of Odin.
Nice. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of to love your work.
I'm sorry, but it's just the first things which came to my mind. It's like I just love, like, these are for me pieces of art. This is just, not everybody will give it. Why are you laughing, dude?
I mean, okay, because for everybody to catch the joke, it's Odysseas who drew them and Agnieszka who did the graphic design. So
no. Everything was done by Odysseas. All I did is DTP, so all I did is just lay in text
putting in the layout.
It's all Odysseas. So there was no graphic design from my side. But and then of course what came to my mind is, of course, I love how Teotihuacan looks. So I was like, and then I hear you guys speaking and I'm like, oh my god, this is not about that.
So there are other games, right?
Other games, okay.
I have a feeling you're a bit biased, Agnieszka. A little bit biased.
In the name of Odin, it's a game which I would literally put like a painting. Like I can just basically have it on my walls. So I just love the way it looks. I didn't understand the question clearly.
All right. Okay. So, Odysseas, do you have such games that you would point that are beautifully graphically designed or illustrated, apart from obviously Simware again?
Well, my humble thanks to Agnieszka, first of all, yes, and it's a very difficult question. I mean, you guys mentioned some awesome games, and there's like a whole bunch. There are awesome things out there and great ideas, like, you know, whatever, from like stuff like brass to like the other Untitled Dice, like great ideas, like integrations of graphic design and illustrations that you don't know, you know, maybe where one starts, where the other begins. But if I say chess, is it considered cheating, or can I? Can I? Am I allowed to? Because if we are talking about the best design, where the mechanics and the design and the thematic and the idea are integrated together like in an ingenious way, this is chess for me personally. We're talking about the greatest game. Yeah.
All right, Alexander.
Okay. So actually, the first thing that came to my mind is Everdell, because of its wonderfully, colorfully animal thingy. You know, it's maybe it's from a nostalgic point of view. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit nostalgic, but when I saw Everdell for the first time, I thought about Wind in the Willows, you know, about all the and especially about the old BBC show, and then it just took my heart and swept me from the ground. So that's the one thing. From the things that caught my eye lately. It's definitely So You've Been Eaten. It's one of the games that showed on a Kickstarter, I don't know, a month ago or something, by Panchai Moria, and it's wonderful. It's simple. It's the underwater theme and the colors of it are simply stunning. And
I just want to say that I love the cover of So You've Been Eaten.
The cover,
it's
you know,
absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. But the board is great as well. You know, it's absolutely fantastic. And maybe I would point at Lisboa that Ian O'Toole did. It's very close to perfection for me, because everything ties together. You know, the illustration with the graphic design and the general idea of that it took from the Portuguese azulejo pieces of ceramics. You know, it's wonderful.
Cool. So before we go to the next question, there is another question from the audience that I will ask you in a moment. I just want to say that
you forgot Jakub.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Jakub, because I've just crossed the tile. Sorry, Jakub. Please go on.
No, I'm on the end. Okay, I'm waiting.
No, sorry, my fault. Okay. My fault.
Okay. So Alexander already said Everdell, so I might add to this style of games. It's a Wonderful Kingdom. It's a game from this year, I think, and for me, it's, I think, one of the most beautiful illustration I've ever seen in board games.
You mean the cover illustration, the divided one?
No. Illustrations inside. Well.
Okay.
I think this is one person who made everything, but illustration inside. This sweet middle ground between stylized and semi-realistic, a little angular design of this work is just lighting and shapes is beautiful. First game. Second game, it's, I would say, hate, but just for this reason that Adrian Smith worked on character illustrations, and he's one of my favorite artists. well. And yeah, he's very characteristic. With he's mainly, I think his main thing is his character design. So this is present here. But third game, actually it was two games, but in one. In one place is Escape the Dark Sector and the Escape the Dark Castle. That now someone who see this might be thinking that this is awful. This is just something strange, because those illustrations are, I would say, borderline naive. So everyone who grew up in Poland in 80s, 90s, for sure remembers a Polish version of Might and Magic with black and white illustration.
Super old school.
Yeah, and whole game is made in this style, black and white. No, very old school, as you said, and even only pencil, only white background, and this is so much in my heart now. This is nostalgia in every way. But yeah, for normal user, it might look like something just ugly or too retro or but in my opinion this is stylized in some sort of way. I think so, but everyone who don't know what it is, please Google it and so and see in your own eyes. This is something different, yeah, and but very graphic design and illustration are very good match together.
Agnieszka, you were saying?
Just because Jakub, when he said about this totally different approach, so for me, I already was thinking that okay, to not totally cheat, I will give at least one, and actually the one which I like also the way it looks and incorporates the art, which is not typical for games, with the amazing gameplay and with amazing graphic design, is Scythe. And Scythe itself, it's actually amazing game, the way it looks. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if I were to throw in my three games, that would be Metropolis from an almost non-existent French studio, Ishtari Games. They had a board that most of my friends say that it looks a bit like somebody puked up with a fruit salad on it, but I absolutely adore it. It's amazing. It looks mesmerizing. It's just like that's what you, Magda, were saying about this oniric thing. This looks like an oniric city. It's fabulous. People just don't get the depth of that. And then there would be two games from Awaken Realms. One for its illustrations, which is ISS Vanguard. It's not out there yet, but I've been following the Facebook profile and the campaign for it. It's just, this is, if I were ever to magically learn how to draw, this is exactly how I'd like it to look like. It's amazing. And the second thing from Awaken Realms would be Lords of Hellas, but for the fact that in the game you have quite large monuments, minis, that you put together during the game. And this is actually the game mechanism to make them grow. And the fact that somebody decided that we have those huge minis that probably would be, I mean, they are separated, and when you put them together, the game goes forward. The idea is just amazing, because people made miniatures like that for ages, but nobody ever came up with an idea to make a game out of putting a mini together. And I just love it. Okay, we have a question from Katarzyna Fibiger, who is one of our favorite people to work with. She is also she has her own graphic studio, and she puts into layout a lot of our rules and stuff. and she is asking you guys to recommend the people from outside the board game industry on how to get a position for a graphic designer in the industry. Should they go to university, or should they just, draw in their attic, or maybe they should try to redesign games that already are there? Magda, what would be your recommendation for such a person who is already a graphic designer or has a talent and wants to be a graphic designer, but they want to work in the board games industry?
I must say that this is this kind of job, graphic design in general, that you have to learn a lot by yourself. Maybe because it's quite a recent job, fairly recent, I'd say, like last 2 decades, I guess it were for the software like games or board games, that is like now trendy. So I guess you have to make a lot of projects, try to inspire yourself, read the magazines or the zines on the internet that are related to the subject, and not necessarily studies. I don't think that it's like what you should do. It helps, obviously, like all these art direction studies or UX studies, everything like that, but I guess that it's also your eye and how you feel doing it. So I guess make a lot of projects, even if it's just for yourself, to and consult it with people that maybe are already in the business.
All right. Odysseas, first tell us what you're drawing. We're all really curious.
Yeah, that's something that confused me a little bit, because I heard it.
You're drawing something.
Am I making noise, guys? I'm so sorry.
I guess your microphone is so close,
just doing some, quick doodles here and there. Nothing.
So that would be my advice. Draw, sketch. Do the layouts even on your paper.
Okay, so second question this asks is, what would you recommend people like that who want to work in the board game industry?
What I recommend?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would you tell, somebody wants to work in the board games industry as a graphic designer or illustrator, what should they do?
This should transform their life. They should start doing what they want to be doing. And, the best way they can. I mean, I'm a mostly self-taught artist, and I'm 100% creative. I do a lot of different things, and it would be impossible to go to the university and learn all these things and not come out like a 90-year-old guy starting my career, So, but I try to do always what I want to do, like the process to do it. If you like reading magazines, read magazines. This is where you invest your time in. If you want to be making pictures, whatever this is, like visuals, design, get into the process and find out the necessary tools and advisors or whatever you can. I mean, we are living in an age you cannot have enough information. It's like so much out there. So it's just depends on you to just grasp it and do it, and it will eventually come. Yeah.
Jakub, you used to teach people graphic design at the university, so you probably would say that it's important to go there and learn stuff, right?
Well, maybe.
Good job, you're not doing that anymore, man.
Yeah, that's why. No, because I think in certain areas the knowledge from the university is helpful. For example, I was studying design, so those type of studies are very how to say that,
technical.
Yeah, it helped me in the whole process, how to starting to do my job and how to manage it and make it easier for me. There's all this plan and this point which step by step I try to do every time I'm drawing something or designing something. And yeah, there's many people without any formal education, and they're working for big companies. That is not so important, but it is helpful. But from my perspective, if you only had this spark, you want to do that and you want to learn, and at this point with YouTube, with all artists sharing on Patreon their tutorials, that there's so much materials that of course you can choose a specific type of studies. Like I think in Wrocław there's such a type of studies like concept art or something like that. I think, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, of course, but I don't know. And the topic, the subject I was teaching wasn't strict illustration or concept art related. That was more like chair design. Yeah, so that wasn't. But basically, that was in some sort of way this thing why I started to do something else, because you know in some sort of way I just starting to think what I'm doing in my life, and I just want to in full time do illustration. And you know, I've seen many people who are great in art and they only 15, yeah, or something like that. That's only your hard work and this little spark, I would call it talent. I think.
Okay. Agnieszka, so you are an example of a self-taught professional who is now basically managing your own studio. You work for different publishers. You work with Board&Dice, but you also work with some other publishers. And you, if I remember correctly, went to university and studied
geology.
geology. Yay! So I understand that it was a bit
more abstract.
So what we're trying to say is, if you want to be a graphic designer, study geology.
But to be honest, the question actually is really good, because it says to all graphic designers, what would you recommend to graphic designers who want to work with board games and design them? So I know that basically it's not enough that you go to school, you learn how to be a graphic designer, or that you can illustrate. Know your area. Board games are very specific. So gather as many information as you can on that specific industry, because it's different thing to do DTP for company who is publishing books or any publishing company, but it's different to do this for board game industry. So basically do research on your industry in which you want to work. And I do not believe personally that you need to have the skill of being a graphic designer, of being an illustrator, to have basically all the skills. Because let's be honest, many publishers, or 99.9% of publishers, would contact the illustrators and graphic designers whose portfolio they like. So I don't think that there is a way that you can mimic somebody's style just because you know that, oh, this publisher, maybe they will like it. But the main point, in my opinion, is to, if you actually are working with board game company on even small things, surprise them with your own creativity instead of just providing them one or two options which they ask for. Say, hey, but you know, I have my third option, my personal preference, and this is how I actually envision it, and I think it would be perfect. And who knows? And this way, you can actually surprise somebody because even though there's a theme, there's already an idea, by just your own experiment providing some other option, it can be actually a huge success because those people will say, hey, look, they actually thought about our product, and this is the biggest quality.
So speaking of, quite recently, like 4 or 5 years ago, we actually were looking for a position of a graphic designer in our company, and we hired an amazing person, Zuza, who is now with us, and basically she didn't work in board games industry before. She worked as an architect before that, but now she's a part of the Board&Dice team. So why do you think, Zbyszek, it was possible? So what from her story can people learn to do the same thing?
I think Zuza is very open to learning new things, and studying a related subject like architecture helped her to go more into arts. Also, I mean, she's quite good with software, learning new software, which also helps, right? So these are definitely the values she had, she has.
The qualities, yeah.
And yes, the qualities that decided we hired her. And from my point of view, an advice I would give to people more like me, so more graphic designers rather than illustrators, is a little bit what Agnieszka said, but I will go deeper. So basically study games, study how they are made, study how they are designed. So basically study UI, study how the elements of the game are decorated, not only from the illustration side, but also, like, I don't know, frames on the cards, or point tracks, or icons that are very common in many games, representing actions, resources, whatever. Study how these look, study the scale of the game on the table. It will all help you to do a better design. Yeah.
But we cannot hear you.
Kuba,
we cannot hear you. But okay, I would like to hear Aleksander and Odysseas.
Yes,
so guys,
that's exactly what I said. Thank you, Agnieszka.
Yeah.
So,
Aleksander,
okay. Well, it's hard for me to recommend things for graphic designers because my job is mostly illustrating. But I think we can agree that a very important thing for everyone actually who wants to work in board games is to develop your interpersonal skills. You just have to know, you have to understand what people want from you. It is crucial, you know, when you get the brief, when you talk to people, when you email them, call them, meet them. you have to be extra careful. You have to listen and you have to develop things they need, and you have to work perfectly with all the feedback that comes to you, because that's what makes the work fluent, and that what makes the great effect in the end, the cooperation. And when you can hear, you can do the things that make a great board game in the end.
I'm still working on Board&Dice as an art director, and I have to fully agree here with Aleksander. So basically, it is crucial to understand how to work with a brief. It is also crucial to understand that feedback from the publisher is not against you, it's for the game. It's super important. Also, my piece of advice is, when the conventions come back, or even if they don't, just go there and meet people and show them what you can do. I mean, if you want to work with a particular publisher, hey, design an extra card for the game they did and say, hey, this is my idea for how to do it. Look, let's do the next game together. I would be like, oh my God, I want to work with you, like, now. This, because you did something really out of the box, and that would be great. So that's my advice. Work with the brief, use feedback as a tool, not as something that harms your ego, and meet the people you want to work with, and sell yourself to them by showing how you really like to work with them, and that's super important. Also, deadlines.
Odysseas also.
Oh yeah, all of this is one more thing I would like to add, because I think it was in the question. I don't see the question now, but I think it was asked about drawing, wasn't it?
Yes.
Developing drawing skills, and I would say absolutely learn to draw. You're going to do something that is visual design, and you should not be limited, because don't become a graphic designer because you cannot draw. Become a graphic designer because you like to do this thing. So I think it's important. Maybe not like to become like a Da Vinci, or like a master draftsman, or draftswoman. How do you call this? I don't know. But yeah, certainly develop drawing skills. It will expand your horizons and the possibilities you can realize.
Also, your design is fantastic, and you will want it to be perfect. I prefer it to be a little bit imperfect, but meeting the deadline. We can work with imperfect designs. We cannot work with crossing deadlines. So that's just like super important. Okay, thank you for this, guys. And now I would like to speak a bit about what you said, Odysseas, which is workshop. So when you work, what's your workshop? How do you work? Do you have to first draw things manually first, like sit down with a piece of paper, a pencil, and draw it? Or maybe you jump straight to Photoshop? Or maybe you have some other software you prefer? Or maybe you have some rituals? You don't start the game before you go out to your favorite hut at the lake and look at the swans that are swimming there. I don't know. I mean, what's your thing that gets you going when designing a game? So Odysseas, we know that you draw a lot. We've heard that and we've seen that. So you use piece of paper and
I don't draw enough. I don't draw enough. Well, ideally, I would do all of these things. Of course, it's not possible to, go out and. I mean, when I was designing Simorg, I went for a vacation. I went for some, 20 days to Granada, and I was like drawing the how is it called, Alhambra castle.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like a main inspiration for the Castle of Simorg game. So, the inspiration or all this stuff, they can come from anywhere. You don't know. You will dream something and you know, but what I do increasingly, and I see that it really works, not only in drawing or design, game design, but in anything actually, is change your environment. When I have a project, the whole place changes. You know, I had like a project with masculine archetypes and mythological stuff, and the whole place would transform. It would be full of studies and drawings and books. Even if I don't do it, even if I don't begin immediately to draw something, I open up, I open books, I hang on the walls like illustrations, stuff, and just this thing gets you in there. It's not like everything locked up in a computer, but it's there. You see it. You're bombarded with this information, and you like enrich it, and then it doesn't matter if you do it. What I do everything. I do pastels, or charcoal. Eventually, everything comes in the computer. So I guess like the possibilities are endless there. It's not a matter of a tool. Yeah. Oops.
And what's going on now? So I'm actually curious
Kuba, do you
about.
have a pulse?
I think cannot hear us.
Kuba.
We've lost Kuba again.
Oh, am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
I think I'm back.
Oh,
Odysseas is
Odysseas.
gone.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope Odysseas will rejoin us, but Odysseas is back here.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
So, thank you for this, Odysseas. Magda, how do you work? How do you get your engine started?
So basically now I draw digitally, actually from the very beginning. I remember that the first Escape Tales, The Awakening, I started drawing, by hand on the paper because it was easy. I mean, it was easier for me to be really immersed in this whole dark mood and stuff. And I prefer to ink all the illustration with the actual ink, but actually it was really time consuming as all the Escape Tales have many cards. So quickly I switched to either tablet, graphic tablet, because it's been like years that I use Cintiq Pro, for example, as my regular graphic tablet, but it's been like 2 or 3 years that I used iPad Pro, and then on iPad you have Procreate, for example, which is really great program to illustrate, and even with this integrated brushes you have this feeling of really drawing like on paper, because I also have this special screen that feels like paper, so I actually don't need this step. I know that some people like the feel, the touch of paper, and they need this in the very beginning. And I personally, I liked working with Procreate because whenever I have to modify something or whatever, it is easier, especially if the volume of work is important. And then I export all the files to into PSD, for example, to work on my Adobe Suite, and either it's Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign if it's a book, whatever, it depends on the project. So basically it's Procreate and Adobe from the beginning till the end.
Okay. Agnieszka, and you basically as a DTP and layout artist, you probably mostly just work in an electronic environment, right? Or do you maybe have a ritual, like, you have to have your 3rd and 4th coffee before you start working?
I'm very methodical. It's my geological background. I actually am really to the point with stuff. I like to have a plan and stick to it. So of course, with DTP, there is a different approach because you kind of need to have this engineering mind, how to feed stuff, how to properly, position them. But I actually love doing the 3D model and the 3D mock-ups of our games. And unfortunately, with this, I can spend even weeks if given, because I'm never happy enough of the light or how this. So this actually is a very methodical, because you need to be very detailed to do it properly. And so basically, I think because I started with all the journey with the Adobe suite, and for me the softwares are extremely easy to learn. I always been using this way, and unfortunately, Odysseas, I am a graphic designer because I cannot draw. So, but the thing is that I really enjoy it. I really do enjoy doing this. And the board game industry taught me that there is never enough time to actually be fully, like, I could always redo something, but there is never time to redo it for the 20th time. And yeah, this is just the type of industry we are in. But yeah, this industry taught me with design that you need to be very meticulous and keeping deadlines for yourself as your timeline.
Yeah, there is
experience.
There is a whiteboard in our office where someone wrote iterate until perfect, and then someone else crossed out perfect, and now it says iterate until deadline, because that's basically how it works. Jakub, so how do you work? Do you draw by hand first, or do you go directly into digital? Do you have any rituals when you work?
Well, as Magda said, I now mainly working digital. Sometimes just for fun or in spare time, I try to do something manually on the paper. But yeah, no, specific of this work, there's always a deadline. And in many time you get some commissions, and it's only, for example, 2 weeks to doing I don't know, 30 illustrations. So yeah, mainly digital, and I always Photoshop, of course, and I always like to work with 3D. Maybe not something like great render, but to help myself with some geometry or just experiment with some type of lighting or for example material on the reflections on that. So yeah, that type of thing. Well, back to the traditional drawing. Maybe not traditional, but for some time I wanna try some touch screen or tablet with touch screen like Intuos or Huion, and try something like that. I know that many artists don't like to work with pencil and drawing on the screen, and this is the thing that stopped me at this point, because they're not cheap. But yeah, in the future, I would like to try something like that. Yeah, but as I said, in my process, I'm not very original. I'm not traveling to the castle and drawing something. So yeah, I'm very boring in this aspect.
Well, methodical again. So, Alexander, what's your thing? How do you work?
Well, definitely my thing was always traditional arts, but you know, it's much easier these days to do things digitally. But if I have time, I'd always prefer to start with pencil and paper. It was always my first, true and only love. To do some doodles, to do some sketches, and move to digital afterwards. Because maybe it's a little bit like Magda said, that maybe I'm a type of a person that likes to feel the paper, you know, the texture, even the sound of what happens with pencil on the paper is great for me. But probably it's because when I was learning how to draw properly, I mostly did it with a pencil. And because I was preparing to study architecture, it was the best possible way. Yeah, so starting traditionally is my way, but sometimes you don't have the time to do it, and then you have to do it digitally from the beginning. It's nothing better, you know. If you feel confident with what you know and what you do, you can do good things, good illustrations with almost anything. And apart from starting traditionally, I would say that very important for me is gathering, or rather hoarding, reference materials.
What do you use? Pinterest, Dropbox, ArtStation? How do you work?
Mostly, yeah, but I will say that I do things also traditionally, and I look for books. Because I have a lot of books at my home, and there's a huge wide world of books, and I really like to hold a book in my hand and to see the printed illustration more than those that you can display on your monitor. But yeah, Pinterest is absolutely a great tool, and if you're looking to inspire yourself, or you're looking to find something very specific, it's really cool. For every illustration I make, I think I have, I don't know, sometimes hundreds of things
for research.
Yeah,
fantastic. Okay, Zbyszek, if you're the last to go, I think I have not missed anybody this time, have I? No. If you're the last one, and again, you being mostly graphic designer, I would guess that you work, that you start your work in, Photoshops and designs and illustrators of the world, but the truth is quite different, right? You like your little notebooks.
Yes, I keep a little notebook. It's not very, it's not much filled with a lot of drawings, but I use it sometimes to make small visual notes, to check just some simple shapes, variations of some simple things. So yeah, a little sketchbook is always good. But I work mostly on computer in Adobe software. Maybe it's worth mentioning again things that can't be quite perfectly done on computer, like the Japanese calligraphy I practiced a little bit for the Yedo project. So that's something that sometimes.
So did you have to scan it in the end?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes, but I made it with a like kind of Japanese brush, and ink. Practice. I mean, you can basically spend your life. Some people spend their lives on doing calligraphy, Japanese calligraphy. I did it just for a short time, but it was fun, and I hope that the result of it is okay. And speaking of rituals, I don't think I have any rituals during my time of work, but recently when we were developing some graphic design for one of our games in Board&Dice. I couldn't quite get into the theme of the game. It was another of the ancient culture theme, and I looked for a music of this culture.
Folk ancient music, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Folk ancient music, and it helped me to get into this world. And I had
Wasn't it Tabanusi?
quite a fun. Yes, Tabanusi.
It was for Tabanusi.
Sumerian music, the Sumerian music with drums and flute and harp really took me to the place. So
cool. All right, guys, ladies and gents, we are. I want to thank you for participating in this talk. We have spent almost 2 hours together, and I believe that is more than enough for us. Probably not enough to even start talking about ours, because I have, of course, more questions prepared. But come on. It's been almost 2 hours, and it's Sunday, so we'll let those good people go to their beds and enjoy the rest of the Sunday. So thank you again for being with me. Thank you. It was Magdalena Klepacz who did Escape Tales: The Awakening, Escape Tales: Slow Memory, lots of cards for Snowdonia, covers for Teotihuacan. Thank you for being here with us. Agnieszka Kopera, who I would have to go through 37 titles, so I will just say that Wild Fun West was your first one, but for sure it was not the last one, because there is Teotihuacan Expansion Period, for example, which is the newest expansion to our line, which will be premiering very, very soon, and it's also Agnieszka's doing. Thank you, Odysseas, who did, as we know, sim work in the name of Odin, Teotihuacan, and so many other games with us. Thank you, Odysseas, for being here. Aleksander Zawada, who is the great person behind Origins, all the illustrations, Dark Ages, also the board, and for Zapotec to Antinsiu Tekenu. It's fabulous to be working with you. Thank you so much. We have Jakub Fajtanowski here. Yeah. We have Jakub Fajtanowski here, who did so many games with Board&Dice and so many covers. And from it was the Word Shapers, Sierra West, and we had Escape Tales, obviously, characters for Yedo, cover for Takanu. It's all Jakub and his hard work. Thank you so much for being with us. And last but not least, Zbyszek Umgelter, who has been working on most of our games from Traintopia, Yedo, Tekenu Tewantinsu, Zapotec, Origins, Mandala Stones. Mandala Stones is basically it's all Zbyszek's design, from the cover to the very, very last piece of the game. And Zbyszek is the person who will be taking over the responsibilities of art director at Board&Dice very soon. So welcome him, all of you, our good artists, with open hearts and open minds. He will be in touch with you, and you will all be making great games together. So thank you again.